In a world where the elements swirled in harmony and chaos alike, the land of Erinda stood as a testament to both the beauty and darkness that magic could bring. A place of vast forests, scorching deserts, frozen tundras, and towering mountains, Erinda had known peace and war in equal measure. Magic coursed through the veins of the earth and the blood of its inhabitants, shaping destinies and molding powers that could build empires or reduce them to ash. For centuries, the people had lived in fragile peace, a peace that had been broken once before, when the ancient wars had ravaged the land. The people spoke of the phoenix, a legendary creature of flame and rebirth, said to rise from its own ashes whenever the world needed it most. But the phoenix had not been seen for generations, its myth becoming little more than a whispered tale. The land had begun to darken once more when the sinister forces of Zaratha, the Shadow King, began their slow and steady encroachment upon the peaceful kingdoms. Once, Zaratha had been a noble warlord fighting for the freedom of his people, but his thirst for power had turned his soul to shadows, his very being consumed by the void of magic that corrupted his mind. His army, the Legion of Dusk, was an army of nightmares, twisted beings of shadow and smoke, loyal only to their dark master. Zaratha's chief lieutenant, Isolde Nightshade, was a sorceress of unparalleled power, her heart as cold as the void itself. With a mere wave of her hand, she could summon storms of ice and flame, bending the elements to her will. Together with the Legion, they invaded the peaceful kingdoms of Erinda, razing villages, tearing down cities, and enslaving those who survived. Among the kingdoms, the once proud kingdom of Solara stood as the last beacon of hope. Its queen, Seraphen Amara, was a ruler beloved by her people. Her beauty was unmatched, but it was her wisdom and strength that inspired the fiercest loyalty in her subjects. She had witnessed the rise of the darkness, and she knew that only one thing could stop it: the legendary phoenix, a creature tied to the very heart of the world. Seraphine's most trusted knight, Dorian Ardent, was a man of unmatched courage and honor. He had sworn an oath to protect the queen and her kingdom, but his love for Seraphine went deeper than that. He had loved her since childhood, though the queen had never known. He had never spoken of his feelings, for in such times there was no room for personal desires, only duty. But as the shadow of war loomed over Solara, Dorian's heart began to burn with the desire to protect the kingdom he held dear, and the woman he loved. He knew the only way to stop Zaratha's forces was to find the phoenix and awaken its power. With no time to waste, Dorian set out on a perilous journey, determined to find the phoenix. Seraphine, though heartbroken to send him away, understood the necessity of his quest. Before he left, she placed a sacred amulet around his neck, a symbol of her trust. It was said to hold the essence of the sun itself, and Dorian wore it as a reminder of the kingdom he fought to protect. Dorian's path led him through treacherous lands, ancient forests filled with beasts that lurked in the shadows, the storm-tossed cliffs of the Thunder Coast, and the desolate wastelands where once proud civilizations had fallen to dust. The further he traveled, the more he felt the pull of destiny, the weight of the world resting on his shoulders. Along the way, he met allies, warriors, scholars, and sages, each of whom had their own reasons for aiding him. One such ally was Elysia Stormborn, a mage of unparalleled skill and the last surviving member of a forgotten order of elemental mages. Her power over the storms was as fierce as her will, and though she was reluctant to join Dorian, she could feel the wind of fate blowing them together. With her guidance, Dorian crossed the forgotten peaks, a range of mountains where the phoenix was said to rest in slumber. As they neared the summit, they encountered a group of Zaratha's soldiers, led by Varric Steelfang, a brutal warrior who had once been a friend of Dorian's. Now, consumed by hatred and the darkness of Zaratha's influence, Varric sought to stop Dorian at any cost. The battle that followed was brutal. Swords clashed, magic ripped through the air, and the ground shook beneath their feet. In the heart of the battle, Dorian and Varric faced off, their swords flashing with sparks as they dueled beneath the shadowed sky. "You were always too soft, Dorian," Varric sneered, his voice twisted by the power of darkness. "You could never embrace the strength of true power." Dorian's heart ached as he parried Varric's strikes. "You were my brother once, Varric," he said, his voice filled with sorrow. "But now you've become something else." With a final, heart-wrenching strike, Dorian drove his sword into Varric's chest, and his former friend fell. The victory felt hollow in Dorian's heart, but there was no time for mourning. The phoenix awaited. At the peak of the Forgotten Mountains, in a cavern hidden from the world, Dorian and Elysia found the phoenix's resting place, a massive altar made of stone, surrounded by ancient runes. The air was thick with magic, and the ground was scorched as if touched by fire itself. As Dorian approached, the phoenix's fiery form began to stir. Its great wings unfolded, its eyes glowing like molten gold. "You have come," a voice echoed in Dorian's mind, the voice of the phoenix itself. "The time has come for rebirth." With the phoenix's guidance, Dorian knelt before the creature and offered the amulet Seraphine had given him. As the phoenix's flames surrounded him, he felt his strength surge, his body burning with power like never before. The amulet glowed brightly, and the phoenix's essence flowed into him, fusing with his very soul. In that moment, Dorian became the phoenix's chosen. With the creature's power, he could turn the tide of the war. He returned to Solara, his heart burning with the fire of rebirth and vengeance. The war had reached its climax. Zaratha's forces had gathered outside the gates of Solara, and the final battle would soon begin. The sky above the battlefield was thick with storm clouds, and the winds howled as if nature itself sensed the impending clash. On one side stood the forces of darkness, led by Zaratha and Isolde. On the other, the forces of light, led by Seraphine and Dorian. The battle raged across the fields. Steel clanged against steel, arrows flew through the air, and magic tore through the earth. Dorian, now wielding the power of the phoenix, soared through the sky, his wings made of flames. With every sweep of his wings, he struck down Zaratha's forces, his sword glowing with the fury of the phoenix's fire. But Zaratha was not easily defeated. The Shadow King himself descended upon the battlefield, his power as immense as the darkness that consumed him. With Isolde by his side, he wielded Forbidden's magics, casting shadows that swallowed the light. In the heart of the battle, Dorian faced Zaratha. "Your time is over, Zaratha," Dorian shouted, his voice filled with fury and conviction. "You are nothing but a pawn, Dorian," Zaratha sneered. "You cannot defeat me. The darkness is eternal." With a cry of defiance, Dorian unleashed the full power of the phoenix. Flames erupted from his body, and the sky itself seemed to burn as the two forces collided. The ground shook, and for a moment, it seemed as though the world would tear itself apart. In the end, it was Dorian's courage and the phoenix's rebirth that triumphed. Zaratha fell, his body consumed by the flames of the phoenix, and Isolde's magic shattered beneath the force of Dorian's power. As the sun rose over the battlefield, Dorian stood victorious, his wings folding in the morning light. The darkness had been defeated, and peace had returned to Erinda. Seraphine, having witnessed the battle from her throne, rushed to Dorian's side. They stood together, their hearts bound by love, sacrifice, and the fires of a rebirth that had saved their world. And so, the Phoenix's ascent marked the beginning of a new era, one where peace would reign. But the memory of the Phoenix's flames would forever burn bright in the hearts of those who fought for it. The forgotten had been reborn.